Last Sunday, A&E profiled Bret the Hitman Hart in its biography series, which nearly matched NXT in its total audience this week and actually beat NXT in the key demo that everybody loves to talk about. NXT got beat by the Bret Hart biography. Bret is my favorite of all time, the GOAT, as they say. So I knew it was going to be all stuff that I already knew. But I thought this was the best one that they've done yet. Although I will admit, I did not see the Mick Foley episode. That's the only one that I've missed so far, and I heard good things about that one too. But this was a very enjoyable 2 hours covering his early life through the Stampede days into WWE, a handful of his greatest matches, of course the Montreal Screwjob. You can't tell the Bret Hart story without talking about him punching Vince McMahon in the face. It's just a great story. Right on through the death of Owen Hart, his retirement from the ring, the stroke, and his recovery from all of the negative shit that he's been through, to remarrying a woman about 25 years his junior, and finally being in a great place in his life. This was not a story about Bret Hart, the bitter man. You know, Bret Hart buries the world. It was a story with a happy ending. I liked how much they went into his drawings. He's a really good cartoon illustrator. He's not a drawer at the level of Jerry Lawler. Lawler has a gift that few people have. But Bret's not too bad himself. And neither is Dexter Lumis, actually. But they talked about Bret's, his drawings and how he used to draw stuff that would pop Andre the Giant and guys in the locker room back in the day. I love the footage of him watching his student film back, The Lizard. I thought that was cool. He was studying filmmaking before he finally decided to get into the family business, and he was just a natural at it. You know, there was nobody better than Bret when it came to making a match believable. He gets criticized for taking wrestling and taking himself too seriously, and he did. But I think that was part of why everything that he did came across that way, because of how seriously he treated it. Every match felt like a war. Nothing was done for comedy. Nothing was, you can believe everything that this guy said and everything that this guy did. They covered the sibling rivalry story with Owen, which is still fantastic all these years later. And to think, WWE wanted Bruce Hart for that role, but Bret was the one who insisted on Owen getting the spot. The WCW deal, he was initially offered $2.8 million for 3 years, plus royalties. And he ended up taking the WWE deal, which was $10 million over a period of 20 years. Considerably less money, but he never wanted to leave. And the people who sort of poo-poo that, that's all the proof you need. If it was purely a financial decision, then you take the $3 million a year and keep your mouth shut. And he didn't. Not until Vince told him, look, I can't afford to pay you anymore. We're going to breach your contract. I give you my blessing to go negotiate with Turner and Eric Bischoff. They did mention the Sunny Days comment on Raw from Shawn Michaels, which is what led to the little cat fight that he and Shawn had backstage at Raw in Hartford. That was when Shawn went home claiming unsafe working conditions. And then later, when Vince tells him that he's dropping the title to Shawn Michaels, he goes to Shawn and tells him, look, I just want you to know that I've got no problem dropping the belt to you. And Shawn replies back, oh, that's great, but I just want you to know that I'm not willing to do the same thing for you. And that really, lost in all this Montreal talk about him not wanting to lose in Canada, blah, blah, blah. That, I think, more than anything, that gets underplayed. That one exchange backstage one day at an event when Bret was trying to be the bigger man. Not that Bret was totally innocent in everything that happened with him and Shawn. But in that instance, he went to Shawn and said, look, I'm willing to put the past behind us and I'm willing to do business the right way. And Shawn said, well, that's great, but I'm not. That, I think, more than anything, is what led to the whole fiasco at Survivor Series. That's when Vince McMahon should have taken control as a leader and gotten both of these guys in a room together to hash things out, but he didn't do it. He thrived on that. A lot of top guys have talked about that over the years. Vince McMahon thrived on competition between his top talent. Now, having said that, I said Bret's not totally innocent here. They played the secret audio from the meeting backstage at Survivor Series before the match with Bret and Vince, which was for the Wrestling with Shadows documentary. Vince didn't realize that Bret was still mic'd up, or maybe he didn't care, but I doubt that. And he tells Bret, for the finish, whatever you want to do. We'll do whatever you want to do. And Bret says, well, we could do a DQ finish, and then I can come out and do a speech on TV the next night and forfeit the title, I think, with my head held high. That would be the way to go. And I'm sure that in his head that sounded nice, but that was a ridiculous request. You don't just give a speech and hand over the belt. You drop the belt. And I know he has said that he offered to lose it to anybody else, even the Brooklyn Brawler, just not Shawn Michaels, not in Montreal. But here, he wants to do a speech and say goodbye and just hand the belt over. You can't do that. Just the nature of how things were at that time. He's going to WCW. You have to drop it in the ring and put somebody over for it. So when I listened to that again and heard him talk about the speech in the ring and I'll just hand it over, I just rolled my eyes. I laughed out loud when he talked about Goldberg and the kick to the head that ended his career. And he says that on a scale of 1 to 10 as a wrestler, he would rank Goldberg as a 0. He never holds back when he talks about Goldberg. It's so weird because he's done interviews over the years where he talks almost in a complimentary way about Goldberg. Well, it was a mistake. Accidents happen. And, he and Goldberg, I feel like they've buried the hatchet before. But then he'll do interviews even now where it's like, oh, the guy was a 0. He couldn't wrestle. He was so reckless. Look at what he did to me. It's weird. Because it just doesn't seem to be terribly consistent. Because I feel like he has kind of talked about forgiving, Bill in the past. But maybe he's had a change of heart. Bret Hart has had a change of heart. But at the end, the stuff with his wife, his family, I thought was very nice. I'm glad he has finally found peace. And I don't mean Montreal, but he's had a lot of tragedy in his family and in his sort of inner circle. I mean, Pillman, Owen, Davey Boy, his brother Dean, many, many years ago died early of this very rare disease. And the man has lost a ton of friends in the wrestling business. I know he was very close with Rick Rude and Bryan Adams, Crush. Of course, Jim Neidhart, Randy Savage. I mean, so this guy has had a lot of loss in his life. The stroke that he had. He battled prostate cancer. It's just nice to see him doing well and that he's still here, and long may he be here. Bret is the one guy, if you force me to pick just one, whose matches I could go back and just watch, just kind of like drop everything and go watch his work, it's Bret Hart.